going on, everybody? This is Sean of Raw Select Music. Today I want to talk about this record right here. This is Grooveman Spot's Resynthesis Purple, released in 2019 on Jazzy Sport. This is a record actually I've been wanting to talk about for a while now, but just haven't gotten around to it. But since I'm doing another event with Grooveman Spot, just like I did last year, which if you haven't checked that vlog out, I would highly recommend that you do so. It seemed like doing a review for this album now would be a great way to sort of segue and tie into the vlog that I'm definitely going to be doing coming up very, very soon. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Anyways, this record is the third in a ongoing series from Japanese beatmaker, producer, and DJ Grooveman Spot. It's an instrumental hip-hop series that he's started back in 2016 or 2017 with Resynthesis Red, followed up by Resynthesis Green, and now we got Resynthesis Purple. So I figured right before I do this Grooveman Spot event, thought I'd show him some love and talk about this record a little bit and let you guys know why I think you should check it out. So with that little introduction out of the way, let's talk about this guy. So a little bit of background about Grooveman Spot. As far as I can tell, unfortunately, it doesn't really have like a Wikipedia page, so digging around on the internet, I sort of had to piece a couple of things together. According to his Discogs, his earliest album came out all the way back in 2006, and since then, he's been consistently releasing at least one record a year, which is pretty impressive. And if he isn't releasing something under his Grooveman Spot name, he's releasing something under his various aliases. One of his most notable aliases is a collaboration project with another Japanese producer named Sauce81 called 77 Karat Gold, which I highly recommend that you check out. But I think Grooveman Spot is probably his most famous moniker, and he's really known for just being a jack of all trades beatmaker. Whether it's doing old R&B re-edits, being a straight up hardcore hip-hop head, making J Dilla style beats, making old school boom bappy style beats. Grooveman Spot may just be one of the most versatile hip-hop producers in Japan that I can think of. And speaking of which, it is noteworthy that I think Grooveman Spot is part of what I guess would be the third or fourth generation of Japanese hip-hop, right after DJ Crush and DJ Muro, but right before some of the more recent producers like Mobby and JJJ. So Grooveman Spot is in the same sort of camp as other noteworthy and probably more well-known Japanese producers like Buddha Monk and DJ Mitsu the Beats. All the artists that I just talked about are attached to one of Japan's most famous hip-hop labels, Jazzy Sport, which I believe was originally started as a record store and soccer club back in 2005, perhaps, in Morioka, which is northern Japan. But I think it really started to pick up when the store opened up a second shop in Tokyo, and that one's become pretty renowned as like the stop for a lot of visiting DJs in Japan. If you ever get the chance, definitely check it out, because Jazzy Sport has one of the best, most eclectic record selections you will ever see in Japan. Prices are pretty good, and it's just got a little bit of everything that you might be looking for. So with that little tangent aside, let's actually talk about this record right out the gate, that I recommend that anyone who's a big fan of bass-heavy instrumental hip-hop, give this record a listen. So one more little piece of background: I own Resynthesis Red and this record right here. I don't have the one in the middle, Resynthesis Green, hoping to pick that up physically from Grooveman Spot in this upcoming event. But from what I've heard through Red and this record, it really seems like Grooveman Spot's productions over time have sort of gone away from doing sort of the typical straightforward boom bap sort of stuff, moving into what could be called EDM hip hop. I actually talked to him a little bit about how he does some of his productions. But what he told me I thought was really interesting. For a lot of the tracks on his Resynthesis albums, he's been using a lot of EDM synths and VSTs and plugins to get some of the sounds that he's been using on his productions and releases thus far. And it really shows. Most of the tracks on here are extremely bass heavy. There's a lot of really cool like sonic and electronic textures in here. There's a little less focus focus on melody and sample chopping, and most of it is actually based, unsurprisingly enough, around his wide palette of synth sounds. What I would recommend for listening to this album to get maximum enjoyment of it, definitely get a good set of speakers or headphones, because the amount of sonic detail in this record is absolutely fascinating. The way that the sounds pan, or just the crispness of the sonic detail of this record, it's really like nothing else. Having heard a lot of these productions live, it really makes a difference hearing them with the proper amount of wattage as opposed to the tiniest little speakers and earbuds. So if you really want to get the full experience with this record, make sure you get some good headphones. But not only are the synths really loud, heavy, and aggressive, but also his drums, which take on a sort of boom bap sound, but don't really feel like the sort of cliche drums that you would normally expect. These drums hit so hard. Some of them are really funky. Some of them are really sound like metal being slapped together. Some of them just punch you right in the face. And all across this record, the drums are definitely a very prominent feature. I think in some situations they tend to get a little bit too loopy and not have enough variation, but it really doesn't take that much away from the overall impact of this record, and it really doesn't take away from the overall enjoyment that I get from listening to this record. Most of the tracks on here, pretty aggressive, pretty hard-hitting, pretty much sort of break your neck kind of music, but there are actually a few instances where on this record he moves away from just that sort of sound and makes some moodier tracks, and actually that sort of breakup of the harder hitting, more industrial sounding tracks and mixing them in with some of the more mellow, more moody sounding tracks actually adds for a nice bit of variety. And over the course of the runtime of this record, which is about an hour and 10 minutes, that little bit of variety really helps break this record up. Now, if I'm gonna levy any criticism at this record, I think that some of the tracks needed just a little bit more variation, and some of the songs just end up getting a little bit too redundant, and given that a lot of the tracks go for more than 3 minutes, that kind of takes away from the overall impact of the tracks. Some of these tracks probably would have been better to be a little bit shorter, but honestly, it doesn't really take that much away from the overall enjoyment of this record. It's pretty playful, it's a fun listen, it'll definitely do some damage to your neck. There's some great sampling in here. One of the tracks on here uses Atomic Dog in a way I don't think I've ever heard anybody use, and there's just an overall cleverness to this record that make it joy to listen to over and over again. So if you want some hard-hitting drums, some really cool synth textures, and some top-notch production, as well as some cool sample chops, definitely give this guy a listen. Listen to anything from Grooveman Spot. You will not be disappointed. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this. So that's gonna be it for me today, guys. Thanks as always for watching. If you've given this record a listen, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. As always, if you want to hear it for yourself, please go to my WordPress or Steemit blogs, because that's where I will be posting audio links to any of the records that I talk about on this channel. Also, make sure you head over to my Mixcloud, where you can check out the Raw Select Music podcast as well as the Raw Select radio show. With the Raw Select podcast, it's more of an extended form conversation with whomever I feel like, and the radio show is me playing a lot of records from my collection as well as adding in little bits of commentary in there as well. As always, links for everything down in the description. So that's gonna be it for me today, guys. Thanks as always for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. So until then, peace out!